Do you think this will be sustainable? Do you think Saudi is going to be better off in 10 years than what it was 10 years ago?
Is Saudi Arabia going to be better off in 10 years or not? I don't think it would be. Uh, but I think there are certain things, there are certain trends. Again, we're talking about slow moving trends. Um, I think the 2030s probably will also be a very hard decade for Saudi Arabia as well. As like we talked about how it's going to be a difficult decade for Israel, but I think it's going to be a hard decade for the Saudi regime as well. Look, in at the core of Vision 2030 is an attempt to. I mean, we're talking about modernization and changing society, etc. That's not the core. This is kind of the cherry on top. The main, the main meat of the matter, really, is economic change. This is a country that is dependent upon oil. The world is changing. The world is moving on from fossil fuels. Fossil fuels continue to be important for a very long time, but again, it's a country that needs to modernize its economy. It needs to move it needs to find another way to be prosperous and to be powerful, etc. Keep in mind that that region of the world, Arabia, for a very long time, since the Umayyads moved, it was Ali bin Abi Talib who moved the capital from Medina to Iraq, and from that point, the center of cultural power, political power, etc. in the Arab region, the Muslim world, really never came back to Medina. It was always like a spiritual place, a spiritual area, but not really a cultural and economic powerhouse. And it didn't have a large population. It was not really an important country until recent times, until modern times, when, of course, largely because of the oil. Not to complicate the situation, the narrative a lot more, but basically largely because of the oil, it became a very important country and really a center of both power, wealth, and recently, of course, cultural activity as well. So we have to understand Vision 2030 and MBS's project. And again, I'm saying MBS's project, but really this was many people's project. I mean, MBS really did this thing where to present himself as a reformer, he had to put in prison every reformer who had any idea. So, like Isam al-Zamil, for example, wrote a lot. Like, he wrote a lot of excellent thoughts. He's currently in prison. Excellent. He's an economist. And he wrote a lot of thoughts about this economic transformation. This, like, basically, how are we going to move to a post oil state? How are we going to remain relevant in the world, etc. Isam al-Zamil at the time said that it cannot be done. It's a generational project. It can't be done in a few years. When we talk, for example, about religious reform, again, there is, like, for example, Hassan Farhan al-Maliki, who was currently again in prison, when he spoke about basically the need to kind of reassess the role of Wahhabism and what it did to the world, what it did to Islam in the world, what it did to society. When it comes to politics, there was Jamal Khashoggi, as you know what happened to him, and he was talking about reform. So there were, like, I kind of cringe a little bit when I talk about MBS as a reformer, because there's no society in which only one guy knows what's going on, or just one guy who's smart and everybody else has to just follow him. This just doesn't make sense. Saudis are smart. There are lots of very smart and educated Saudis who know what's good for their country. Anyway, the foundation, the foundation is the economy. The foundation is how do we transport, how do we transform our economy to an economy that can remain high value, highly productive, but not dependent upon oil. When MBS started this project, 2016, 2015, when after the death of, I think it was late 2014 or early 2015, when King Abdullah died, and when MBS became the defense minister at the time, and he entered politics, he had one model of a country, not really a country, really an emirate in the Gulf states, which actually did this. It actually was completely dependent on oil, and then managed to transform itself into a hub for finance, a hub for real estate development, for media, and of course for tourism, and that's Dubai. Dubai is the only, it's not a country, it's the only political unit, let's say, it's an emirate, in the region that actually managed to do this. So MBS basically took the Dubai plan, the Dubai print, the Dubai basically blueprint. Dubai did this in 22, like Dubai started doing this in 2002, so it had a long time, it had a long runway, and it had the advantage of having, being integrated into the United Arab Emirates, where basically other states, other emirates such as Abu Dhabi could basically guarantee some of the loans and make sure that the transition is basically financially possible. Dubai also had excellent infrastructure. It had excellent, even before it started to do this, it had excellent energy infrastructure, an excellent port, an excellent airport. It had, a reputation for competent governance. And I lived there at the time, so I can tell you that people looked up to Dubai as a place that works. This is even before this push to change and to change the economy, etc. So all of these factors, and of course also the new development, the new Dubai, or the new developments basically were very strategic place. So Dubai Silicon Oasis, Dubai Media City, Dubai Internet City, all of these free zones were strategically placed right next, like it was accessible, very close to the port, very close to the airport. So it was integrated into, like, it just fell into place, and that's why Dubai worked. And Dubai, of course, Dubai today, I think 92% or like over 90% of its GDP is actually non-oil, which is again a success story. Now let's talk about whether this is possible in Saudi Arabia and what MBS is doing. I would tell you, first of all, that I'll tell you something that Jamal Khashoggi actually told me, because when I had this discussion with Jamal, in 2018, a few months before he was murdered, and he said that the simplest answer he could have is Dubai is a city-state, Saudi Arabia is a nation. Saudi Arabia is not a city-state. It's too big for you to actually think that you can transform it so quickly and turn it into it can't be done. Let's talk for example about Neom. So he wants to create a new city, but he creates the city literally in the middle of the desert, where there's no existing infrastructure. It is not integrated with any population centers, so people have to move there. It's not exactly between Riyadh and another big city, for example, so it becomes accessible. And he bases this whole thing about this fantastical real estate development, the same, again, the Dubai blueprint, which in Dubai itself, like, it's 20 years, so we know what worked and what didn't work. Dubai, for example, needed to create a lot of like those islands, for example, and the Palm, etc., to maximize real estate, sort of beachfront real estate, for example. But then Saudi Arabia maybe doesn't need that because it has a very long shoreline. So for some reasons, MBS decided that this is the manual to do. It has to be the same as the Dubai manual. Tourism, investing in certain industries, but then high tech. It's talking about artificial intelligence, computer games, etc. And I think that's a mistake. I think the idea. I think there are other, like, there's this concept of opportunity cost, which is very important. It's a concept in economics, and briefly, what it means is that when I put my money in something, it's not only the cost that I actually bought this thing. So, for example, if I have a certain amount of money and I invest it in a particular, I buy stock, for example, in a particular company, it's not only the cost that I put in the stock, but now I don't have money to invest anywhere else. I could have invested in so many different things. I could have done so many different things with the money, but the moment I used it, I have taken off the menu several options that were available to me. And I'm afraid this is what's happening with Saudi Arabia, because this is a very expensive project. Neom is very expensive, and I don't think, even if this, I don't know if I call it utopian or dystopian. It's more dystopian than utopian. And many architects and many city planners told you that it can't be done. Like, you can't really build a line-shaped city. A lot of this is basically, sorry to say this, but bullshit. And when you sell it to like Western contractors and Western companies and Western consultants, then they're going to take your money. Like, they're not going to say, hey, this doesn't work. They don't care. They're just going to take your money, and then when the whole project fails, they say, yeah, I just took my money. My problem here is that this money is going into a failed project where it could have gone into something that could actually work. I mean, it's true, for example, that we have to rely less on fossil fuels. But then there are technology that we can invest, that at least we can try to invest into. There's, like, for example, material science, for example, graphene technology. There's the idea, for example, of converting the oil into hydrogen, like basically refined oil into hydrogen, and then, or even ammonia, which can be used like multiple uses. There's investment in urban planning, for example. How do you actually build an efficient city in the desert that is sustainable and livable, etc.? By pouring so much money into this one project, I'm afraid that so much cash is going here that could have gone into other projects that could actually help make Saudi Arabia, not only Saudi Arabia, but really the Arab region, much more sustainable, much more livable, much more powerful in the coming decades. But let me pivot back to your point about the social changes. When it comes to this concept of social reform, I have to ask the question: could you not have done this without putting all of these people in prison? Like, could you not have actually accomplished what you wanted to accomplish, the social changes, etc., while giving some people some political rights? It's very clear to me. I mean, it's very clear to a lot of people that the whole Vision 2030, of course, there's the economic foundation, but there's a political project along with it. And the political project is to secure the Saudi state, the Saudi regime. There's, of course, a more private project, which is to change the order of succession and to make the Salman line the main line of the monarchy, which MBS so far seems to have succeeded in doing. But there's also, really, like, if your power and privilege depends upon you running the state, you want the state to be powerful for a longer time. It's just a fact. I just don't think that what he's doing is the right investment or the right direction. I think a lot of money is being wasted. Money that the country and the region will need. It absolutely will need in the future because of the very unstable, very uncertain times that lie ahead of us.